You know, America's best days have yet to come, and that's because conservatives like you live the values of our great country. The Heritage Foundation ensures your voice is heard in the Washington swamp every day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values, and they won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. There's a lot to get here to, including the government shutdown farce, which we will get to, including the murders that took place in suburban Manchester, England. But before we do, I've been noticing something that I want to bring to your attention. You know, folks, when you read Karl Marx or you read some of the others of his ilk, Rousseau or Hegel, but don't worry about that. I'm just saying when you read them, they act like they're starting the world all over again. That whatever came before is bad and whatever came before is irrelevant. There's nothing to learn from it. When you watch the Marxists and the Islamists in the streets, they don't even know history. They don't even know American history. They don't care. They're hardcore ideologues. The world begins today. You could be a 33-year-old Marxist, Islamist, Jew hater, American hater who's running for mayor. He knows everything. Everything. It could be a TV host or even a radio host. They spend more time on the internet, more time talking in their own little circle than they do actually informing and educating themselves. But I've noticed this problem is not just on the radical left. I'm seeing this problem among podcasters, TV hosts, and some radio hosts. They believe the world begins with them, and the world begins today. That they're the only ones who figured out that the left is bad and how to fight the left. Now, this is really asinine. We stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us. All of a sudden, our history is wiped out, including the history of the conservative movement. Let me tell you a little story. Let me tell you why some of our conservative forefathers are a lot braver, a lot smarter, than some who beat their chests and pat the back of their heads today on TV and radio. Most of you have heard of William F. Buckley Jr. He was eccentric. He was an intellectual, a scholar. He had his little facial tics and so forth. But he founded modern-day conservatism. And modern-day conservatism brought us to this day with Donald Trump. The conservative movement. Not the Republican Party, the conservative movement. The conservative movement has always had different factions. Always. There was never one faction that everybody unified behind. There were general principles and beliefs that people unified behind. There were libertarians, paleo-conservatives, neoconservatives, traditional conservatives, religious conservatives, fiscal conservatives, social conservatives. They all pulled together under Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan owed a lot of his progress, of his success, to, among others, William F. Buckley Jr. of National Review. They were close friends. And Buckley was a close advisor. And yet, I should tell you, in 1976, Buckley backed Ford against Reagan for a variety of reasons, none of which were philosophical. He was wrong about that, as we're all wrong about a lot of things. But the birth of the Barry Goldwater movement, which was the early rise of this new conservatism, this new conservative movement. Again, Buckley and his cohorts were very much involved in that. Crucially important for laying the foundation for Reagan, Reagan laying the foundation for Trump. This is understandable. This is a very important sequence of events. And yet some people in radio and TV who've never been involved really in the conservative movement have no idea what the hell they're talking about. In fact, some of them, in 2016 were not just backing other candidates other than Trump. They were trashing the hell out of Trump and said they could never back him. Now they carry the flag. Bill Buckley was a very brave man, a very principled man. I didn't know him much, but I knew of him. Had an enormous impact on me at the age of 13 and 14. There were people who came before me, people who came before Rush, people who came before Charlie, very, very important people who fought the good fight and fought it well. Buckley and Rush were very good friends. David Horowitz, who also went to college campuses, who also went to events where the audiences were highly hostile, who came out of the communist movement, the Black Panthers, built a tremendously important organization, tremendously important books, had a great amount of influence on my generation and the generation before me. Crucially important people who are not to be dismissed. Everything didn't begin today. But Buckley did something that the vast majority of modern-day MAGA, modern-day conservatives in and out of the media don't have the guts to do. They don't have what it takes. You see, Buckley did more than found National Review, crucially important magazine. He did more than that. Buckley did more than found the modern conservative movement, which led to so much, including eventually the election of Donald Trump. Indeed, Make America Great Again was Ronald Reagan's campaign slogan in 1985. Peace through strength was Reagan's foreign policy slogan when he ran for president the first time in 1976 and again in 1980. This is a good thing. Edmund Burke talks about it. How one generation is linked to the next. This didn't just happen, MAGA. And yet, Donald Trump is a historic, iconic, unique figure who's carried off things and been able to do things I don't think anybody else could do. But my focus isn't on that, because everybody knows how tremendous I think he is. My focus is on an attitude out of ignorance of some people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s who think that they have discovered the world, that almost nothing came before them. William F. Buckley Jr. was watching and seeing something that troubled him a great deal. A great deal. Buckley was a faithful Catholic, a traditional Catholic, a believing Catholic. But he saw something, was watching something, was reading something that began to appear in his own pages of National Review by columnists. And back then, radio was getting big under Rush. There wasn't a Fox News. There was the counterculture, the independent media platforms that were mostly based on magazines and columns and that sort of thing. The predecessor to podcasting and so forth. And he was very troubled by what he was saying, very troubled by what he was hearing, because he knew his history. He knew what it could lead to. He knew that it would poison and destroy the conservative movement in the effort to create a workable, powerful conservative movement to counter the left, the New Deal, the 1960s radicals and rioters, the New Left. He understood that this poison within the conservative movement would destroy it and destroy any chance of success and defeating the Democrats and the left and defeating the Republican establishment. What did he see? In fact, it was so bad that he committed an entire edition of his magazine from cover to cover to address this issue. And then he went and he wrote a book about it. By the way, he created Firing Line, the first true debate program, where he too wanted to take on people who disagreed with him. And he did. Firing Line. He took on people who disagreed with him. It was a debate show of his values and beliefs versus other scholars, writers, producers. The first of its kind. Firing Line that went on for over 2 decades. Hugely successful. He invented that genre. What was it that he saw that compelled him to take action? We're going to take a short break, and I'm going to explain it to you. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The youth of today will be the leaders of tomorrow, and it's more critical now than ever that we train up the next generation to fearlessly defend conservative values. The Heritage Foundation's Young Leaders Program equips young conservatives with the principled foundation and policy knowledge needed to stand up in a world increasingly hostile to conservatives. The Young Leaders Program is more than an internship. Participants work right alongside Heritage professionals, and they learn valuable workplace skills. They attend weekly policy briefings from Heritage's top experts and have access to practical skill-building workshops. They visit historical sites in Washington and even unparalleled mentorship opportunities. If you or anyone in your life is looking to spend a semester in our nation's capital with the best and the brightest of the conservative movement, please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Go there today. Learn more about the Young Leaders Program. Applications for the spring semester close October 5th, so you have to hurry. Our nation's future depends on patriots like you, spreading the word to make sure the next generation is equipped. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. The riots that took place in the 1960s were every bit as bad as the riots that took place in the 2020, except worse. In more cities, the violence was unbelievable. You had these communist New Left Front groups. It was terrible. You had assassinations. John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King. Again, these were horrific times. Horrific times. I'm very troubled by the dismissal, again, like Marxists, of what came before us here as conservatives, as MAGA. Make America great again. Again, a phrase that Reagan used and so forth. And you look at the Reagan numbers. Reagan broke the back of the Democrat Party hold on the unions. He was endorsed by the Teamsters Union, not once but twice. The forgotten man, that whole issue, that whole area. Again, Reagan broke the back of the Democrat Party. He got nearly 60% of the vote. Won over 500 electoral college votes. You don't do that by just winning the patricians and so forth. And yet, I talk to people who even dismiss Reagan. Big deal. Greatest tax cuts in American history, massive economic growth that actually he grew the economy right into the Clinton administration. That's 2 presidencies away. Defeated the Soviet Union, pushed communism out of our hemisphere and out of Northern Africa, massively rebuilt our military, brought respect back to the country after Carter. He's a nobody? Bill Buckley's a nobody? Goldwater's a nobody? David Horowitz? How about Milton Friedman? Him too? Oh, yeah, those are days gone by. The Bible's filled with days gone by. So what? So there's too many people, not just young people, some middle-aged people, who think like Marxists, who dismiss what's come before. There's good things that have come before, great things that have come before, horrific things that have come before. But the world doesn't begin today. The world won't begin with the next generation, who might think they're smarter than this generation. So what is it that Bill Buckley did that modern day conservatives, podcasters, radio hosts, TV hosts don't have the balls to do today? What is it? I'm not trying to play games. I have to explain it. It's a short segment. There's the break. When I come back at length, I'll deal with it. We'll be right back. The Heritage Foundation built the Young Leaders Program because they're committed to investing in the next generation of America's leaders. Now, this mission is even more important now, as we need a new generation of young leaders fearlessly defending the truth. Every semester, Heritage trains and mentors more than 50 interns who are committed to the principles of individual freedom, free enterprise, limited government, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. Through policy briefings, professional development workshops, lectures from the top conservative thinkers on first principles, principles of conservatism, and more. Heritage equips young conservatives with the timeless truths, practical knowledge, and relevant skills needed to protect and advance conservative principles and policies. If you know young conservatives hungry for a challenge, please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Find more information about the program and its impact on young conservatives. Applications for the spring semester close October 5, so you gotta hurry. Don't wait. Our nation's future depends on conservatives like you taking action to spread the word. Again, that's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Go there today. Let's do our part in training up the next generation of America's leaders. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. What Bill Buckley did is he took on anti-Semitism among certain leading conservative authors, as well as at least one on the left, Gore Vidal. He took on Pat Buchanan. He took on Joseph Sobran, who was a widely read and popular scholar and columnist. And he took on Gore Vidal. And he talked about this evil of anti-Semitism in America. It was the early 1990s. He analyzed what they had said and what they were saying. And he said there's no getting around it. That these are anti-Semitic statements time and time again. He said, as for conservatives, we have to reject this. As a faithful, traditional Catholic, he said, we have to reject this. It will destroy what we believe in. It will destroy our mission, what we're trying to do. And he pointed out that this sort of thing has a way of metastasizing, taking on a life of its own. And he condemned it. Earlier, he had attacked the John Birch Society for, among other things, anti-Semitism, as well as other issues. At one point, the head of the John Birch Society was Charles Koch's father. Now he started the Quincy Institute with George Soros. Yes. Anti-Semitism, he decided, would disqualify people from being in his magazine. He also pointed out, as we point out today, that a lot of it is camouflaged in asking questions. We're just asking questions. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? He also pointed out that the attacks on Israel, in many ways, are another way to camouflage the attacks on Jews. Some of the bizarre, over-the-top, and outrageous charges against Israel are really the charges against Jews writ large. Sound familiar? So he committed an entire magazine, it's a bi-monthly magazine, to the issue. He broke it down. He said, I have to conclude that, yes, Buchanan is an anti-Semite. That's what he concluded. And yes, Sobran, he is too. Now, Sobran was a columnist for his magazine, who we've known for decades. He also knew Pat for decades. Now, the difference between Bill Buckley then and conservatives, whether it's MAGA or some other type of conservative, he had the courage to speak out. He had the courage to name names. Some people I see pounding themselves on the back, their head, their chests, about how brave they are. aren't brave at all. You see the rampant anti-Semitism that's growing. You see some fantastic Christian pastors who are speaking out against this, like John Hagee and many others. You see the rabbis speaking out against this. But where's the Bill Buckley today? Who is it? Really, the only person, well, there's a few, but primarily, who comes behind this microphone and calls a spade is me. There's a few others. The typical reaction among conservatives, or pseudo-conservatives, or former conservatives, is to make excuses, is to sit silently and acquiesce, to play the line, oh, we're only asking questions, or to try, bizarrely, to split hairs. Well, he's a very good friend, you know. That doesn't mean I have to agree with everything. How many of you are very good friends with racist, bigots, Jew haters? But because you're good friends, you know, you split hairs. Well, that's what they say, but they're still good friends. We're good friends. That is appalling. Unconscionable. So before some of these reprobates and miscreants start trashing so many of these great heroes who came before them, they need to look in the mirror because they can't hold a candle to these people. I see people now who brag about who they are and what they say, how important they are. We said this and we said that. They were never involved in the Tea Party movement. They were never involved in Convention of States. In fact, they've never been involved in anything. They've never been an activist for anything. Even more than that, they've never done anything except advance their own careers. They've never done anything. I watch these people as little as possible, but from time to time, they're pathetic. They haven't fought for anything except themselves. Now they're on college campuses. Now they're having tours. Now they're telling us what to think. Now they're telling us who's good and who isn't. Now they're telling us, forget the past. Forget these guys from the past. They didn't know what they were doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They sound like Marxists. And more, they're more Marxists than they are Americans in what they say and support. That's the truth. You know, the other night I said to you that we have a younger generation with many wonderful exceptions. I mean, we have an all-volunteer military. Those are young people who are going overseas and defending us. Those are many young people, not all, but many young people who are police and ICE and so forth. So I'm excluding the obvious situations, but we have a lot of people in this country, younger people, who are spoiled. Some will vote for Mondami. It's just too tough to live in New York. Is that how you folks grew up? It's just too tough, so we have to elect a communist Islamist. It's just too tough, and I want freebies. It's just too tough, so somebody else should pay for my student loans. It's just too tough, so I should be able to have free transportation and free food. It's just too tough, so I expect somebody else, the government, to steal money from someone, raise their taxes in order that I might live better? Is that the answer? Is that how you were raised? It's certainly not how I was raised. That's the great thing about freedom. Capitalism. If you're not happy with your life, do something about it. Don't blame everybody else. Don't put down everybody else. Don't destroy the system. The appeal of Marxism and the left is this. Promises. Promises that are impossible, impracticable, that will never be fulfilled. That's what it is. It's promises versus reality. I've thought about this, and I wrote about it in On Power. I will promise you freebies. I will promise you free transportation, free food, equality. And that's the other word. They take that word and they bastardize it. What does equality mean? Equality doesn't mean everything is fair and everything is equal in the sense of material goods and so forth. You know what that is? That's North Korea. If you judge fairness by equality, then equality in impoverishment, equality in dungeons, then yeah, you've accomplished your equality. But that's not what's meant by equality. So you have reality dealing with unreality. And no matter how many people have to suffer, be impoverished, or die, 100 million. We need more examples, apparently. It just never has been tried. As I wrote in Ameritopia, this is a typical retort. It's never really been tried. If it's your position of these people I'm talking about that you're so smart that the world begins today, then gone are Socrates and Aristotle. Gone are Abraham and Moses and Jesus. Gone is the greatest generation. So now you can play footsie with the Hitlerites and trash Churchill. Gone. You can start to flirt with Sharia law and reject our Constitution. This is what you're hearing from some of these podcasters. Buckley stood up to them. I stand up to them. A relative handful of others stand up to them. And that's it today. That's it today. How many MAGA, that is conservative politicians, have stood up to Tucker Carlson? Can you count them on one hand, Mr. Producer? That's about it, right? How many? How many have condemned him? Or Owens? How many? Or Kelly? Now, there are different gradations and degrees of this, don't get me wrong. But it is a cabal. It's a relatively small circle, but it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't want to hear anymore that Milton Friedman doesn't matter, that Bill Buckley doesn't matter, that Goldwater doesn't matter, that Ronald Reagan doesn't matter, that all greatness exists today, especially among broadcasters who don't have an ounce of dignity or courage to speak out and stand up. Not all, but too damn many. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The youth of today will be the leaders of tomorrow, and it's more critical now than ever that we train up the next generation to fearlessly defend conservative values. The Heritage Foundation's Young Leaders Program equips young conservatives with the principled foundation and policy knowledge needed to stand up in a world increasingly hostile to conservatives. The Young Leaders Program is more than an internship. Participants work right alongside Heritage professionals, and they learn valuable workplace skills. They attend weekly policy briefings from Heritage's top experts and have access to practical skill-building workshops. They visit historical sites in Washington and even unparalleled mentorship opportunities. If you or anyone in your life is looking to spend a semester in our nation's capital with the best and the brightest of the conservative movement, please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Go there today. Learn more about the Young Leaders Program. Applications for the spring semester close October 5th, so you have to hurry. Our nation's future depends on patriots like you, spreading the word to make sure the next generation is equipped. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Fact is, Jews can't survive without the help of Christians. Not worldwide. It's the truth. I'll state the truth. Now, what Israel proved is these are warriors, and they will fight for their lives. No more 1930s and 40s. And they will fight to the bitter end. And they will win more than they will lose. But worldwide, Europe, United States, that's the truth. That's why people like Bill Buckley stood up. That's why people like Pastor John Hagee stands up. And so many others. That's why Zuhdi Jasser, a Muslim, he stands up. Is it too much to ask conservatives and media to stand up? Is it? The Gatestone Institute is a fantastic institute on international policy. I've come to know these people. They really are great. And they have an author there, Khalid Abu Tomeh. He's an Arab Muslim. And he tends to report from Judea and Samaria and Gaza. And other parts of the world as well. He's written widely. A journalist and a scholar. And he wrote a piece today, Qatar must apologize for supporting Islamist terrorist groups. Something we've been talking about here. I've been saying they owe us an apology for 9/11. They owe the Israelis an apology for October 7th. If anyone needs to apologize, he says, it is Qatar, which has long been financing, hosting, and advocating for Hamas and other Islamist terror groups such as the Islamic State, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda. Qatar, in fact, needs to apologize not only to Israel, but to several Arab countries affected by the Gulf state support for Islamist terror groups. Doug Lamborn in 2015 pointed out, Qatar is now known as the world's safe haven for terrorist groups and militia leaders. Evidence suggests Qatar has directly armed or financed multiple Islamist groups in the region, undermining U.S. objectives in pivotal countries such as Libya, Egypt, Syria, by pushing those places toward violent extremism. Qatar is not and never was an impartial mediator in the Hamas-Israel war. A longtime sponsor of the Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamic terrorist groups, Qatar's main goal is to ensure that Hamas, possibly under a different guise, continues to play a key role in the Palestinian arena. People who contend that Qatar might change thanks to the potential incentives of the Abraham Accords appear afflicted with the same illusions as those who fantasize that the Palestinian Authority will reform. And sadly, the self-interested statements from French President Emmanuel Macron, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, these are all leftists, by the way, have encouraged the terrorists and their sponsors to have renewed hope that they finally might be able to get rid of Israel after all. In its perennial role as both the arsonist and the firefighter, as with the Taliban in Afghanistan, there's every reason to assume, unless someone emphatically stops them, that Qatar will set about surreptitiously creating a Hamas the sequel the minute the weather improves. Prime Minister Netanyahu has reportedly apologized. He didn't. He said he regrets to his Qatari counterparts. If anyone needs to apologize, it's Qatar, which has been financing and hosting and advocating for Hamas and these other Islamic groups for decades. This is a point I made and I posted about earlier today. And when are they going to apologize to the 9/11 families? When are they going to apologize to the October 7 families? When are they going to apologize to our troops, many of whom died and many of whom were horrifically injured in Afghanistan when they backed the Taliban? I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Mr. Producer, do me a favor. Would you check and see if they've released the name of the murderer in Britain and Manchester that drove his vehicle into the synagogue and then stabbed two people to death and wounded, in some cases critically, 4 others? So Yom Kippur is the holiest of days in Judaism. It's the Day of Atonement. Catholics have a Day of Atonement once a week, other faiths and so forth. This is the big atonement and holiday in Judaism. It follows on the heels of Rosh Hashanah. There's a reason for that. The new year is launched, and then you want to start off in the best foot you can. You reveal yourself to God, even though God already knows, and you explain to God how you're going to correct things, how you're going to make things right, how you're going to go forward in a very moral and biblical way. It's a very, very important holiday in Judaism. And so this synagogue, this Orthodox synagogue in suburban Manchester, England, was attacked in the morning while parishioners were there praying and sitting ducks. Now, the killer was killed by the police. By the time I came on this program, I didn't hear the name of the killer. Mr. Producer's now trying to see if he can find it. Yeah. That's the name? Jihad al-Shami, a British citizen of Syrian descent, according to Grok. If so, that's why they withheld the name as long as they did. I'm not surprised if that's the case in the least. And this is out of control. You keep reading about Jewish people walking down the street and being beaten to a pulp, sucker punched, gang attacked, all throughout Europe. You hear imams in our own country. You hear elected Muslim leaders in Dearbornistan and other places preaching hate. It's just incredible what's going on. And so these 2 people were killed. This guy, this Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is a quisling. He's pathetic. He's sickening. Sickening. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't going to do this. I want to get into a few other things, but I'm going to do it, Mr. Producer. That's cut 21 when I call for it, please. I want you to listen to this man who's speaking to you. It's only about 2.5 minutes long. What we are facing in this country, what they are facing in Europe, that this is part of a grand strategy by a so-called Muslim thinker. He's a radical jihadist who has enormous influence. Enormous influence. And he's actually considered the number one religious influence in Qatar, Mr. Producer. In Qatar. Our new protectorate. We've now committed, at least during this presidency, committed to go to war on behalf of Qatar if Qatar is militarily threatened. That's an arrangement with Qatar that we don't have with Israel, we don't have with Taiwan, we don't have with any other country. It's almost like Article 5 in NATO. Now, this is an executive order that will not last beyond this particular administration and can be challenged on the ground that it is an executive order. But that said, that's pretty stunning. Since Qatar hasn't had to swear off terrorism, it hasn't had to swear off spending multiple billions in our country to destroy our universities and colleges and turn our own people against us, to back radical Islamist groups in our country, and to apologize for 9/11 and October 7th. That hasn't had to do any of that stuff in exchange. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want my kids, my grandkids, being sent to Qatar to lose their lives in defense of Qatar. I mean, we don't send troops to Israel. We don't send troops to Taiwan and so forth and so on. Why the hell would we do it with Qatar? Now, that said, I want you to listen to this. It's only 2 minutes of your life or so. Cut 21, go.
The man who redefined Islamic thinking for the modern Muslim Brotherhood is Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Unlike Qutb, Qaradawi believed Islam would conquer Europe, not through the sword, but through dawah and population. To support this vision, he founded Fiqh al-Aqaliyat, a doctrine that allows Muslim minorities to adapt to Western societies while upholding their faith.
By the way, this is also my book on power. But the way this guy describes it is fantastic. Go ahead.
On matters of modesty, food, courts, and elections. The goal of integration into Western society is not to advance the country in which they live, but to seize positions of power, to spread Islam globally. Qaradawi's doctrine is essentially the way Qatar can influence the West, which is why it has adopted him and promoted him to be the most influential Muslim religious entity. Qaradawi publicly supported Hamas and suicide bombings. He called their perpetrators martyrs and praised their actions. As a Western, you should know that any Muslim backing Palestine is backing Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood's armed wing. Palestine died with Arafat in 2004. Since then, it's been a Muslim cause, not a nationalist one, which makes Palestine a real threat far beyond Israel's borders. That's why Jordan banned the Brotherhood after October 7th, and Egypt built huge fences around Gaza. They know who they're dealing with. Meanwhile, in New York, there's a mayoral candidate who operates on Qaradawi's method of full integration, even with values contrary to Islam, but for the sake of Islam. It doesn't matter if he is a Shiite, an agnostic like Cenk, or an atheist like Hassan Piker. Qatari money speaks to everyone. Qaradawi's jihad thrives best among progressives, who serve as its final line of defense and help sustain Qatar's influence in the West.
Here, Qaradawi tells an audience in Ohio about the group's goals to conquer the world, including the United States.
Qaradawi is my direct teacher.
At that time, I established the Arab Muslim Association in the whole of America. And alhamdulillah, it grew with time. So we started to have conferences. And alhamdulillah, it attracted all the Arab, organized by the Muslim Student Organization.
So the Qatar is the point of the spear. And now we've committed through an executive order to go to war to defend them. They don't have to give up the leadership of Hamas. They don't have to give up funding of terrorism, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. They don't have to give up pouring billions into our colleges and universities and into Hamas and other terrorist front groups in this country. No. And they don't even have to apologize to us for 9/11. No. This is a serious problem as far as I'm concerned. It's cut and dry. It's a red line. That's my view. Now, when we come back, we'll get into some of this stuff on this phony government shutdown. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/Levin. Make the switch, folks. Make it today. Way, bottom of the hour, Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican candidate for governor of New Jersey, is scheduled to be with us. He has a real shot at this if the folks in New Jersey turn out and vote. Turn out and vote on what's called an off-year election in most of the rest of the country. Very, very important, you know. It'd be important. He came so close last time. It just took a few more votes, but enough people didn't show up. You got to show up if you want to win. I mean, voting is just easy, basic stuff. Democrat Party lies. It lies about everything. It lies about Biden's mental health. It lies about Hunter Biden's laptop. Lies about the border being secure when it wasn't. It just lies. And that's because the substance of its policies are so repulsive to most people, certainly majority, that they don't want to really shoot straight. That's why. And so they lie. And they're lying now. Yes, the reason they, quote unquote, won't vote for a continuing resolution and to keep that part of the government open is because they want to make sure that they pad the federal budget with your tax dollars to subsidize free, top-quality health care for illegal aliens. They say that's not what we're doing, and they'll give you twisted logic as to why they're not. It is exactly what they're doing. They voted against that big bill, the big Trump bill, the beautiful big bill. Among the reasons they gave is, well, they don't want illegal aliens taking off Medicaid rolls. They also don't want able-bodied, able-minded Americans, young men and women, they don't want them to have to work 20 hours a week, even volunteer 20 hours a week in exchange for getting free medical care. No, only you have to work, you see? Only you have to get up in the morning and come back late at night, or get up early at night and come back early in the morning, depending on your shift. You pay for yours, or you work for an employer who helps contribute to your health care, which means you get less salary because it goes to health care. These people want free illegal aliens coming from somewhere else, including those who want to overturn our country and destroy it, who are marching in the streets, who are committing offenses. That's the new Democrat Party focused constituency. They figure the Supreme Court will not overturn this nonsense about birthright citizenship. They may well be right. And so they'll have millions of illegal aliens brought in here purposely with open door, open border policies under the Democrat administration of Biden and the Congress. They don't want them deported, which is why they attack ICE and the Border Patrol. They don't want them deported. They want to give them effectively backdoor amnesty. They want their children to be American citizens and the birthright citizenship. Then they want chain migration so they can bring in 20 of their relatives. The Democrat Party doesn't care about the country. It cares about its own power. They put the party before the country, just like in communist regimes. It's the Communist Party that you have allegiance to. They want you to have allegiance to the Democrat Party. So they've spent a few years, and now it'll be a decade or two, changing the demographics of the country, changing the population, changing the citizenship of the country, so they can have more congressional districts, eventually have more votes, eventually have one-party rule like they do in states like California and Illinois and so forth and so on. That's the plan. And so they want to give illegal aliens who they brought here and they're trying to protect from our laws health care. Health care. And so that's why they're doing what they've done. Now, it wasn't always this way. 20 years ago, Chuck Schumer denounced it. 30 years ago, Hillary Clinton denounced it. Cesar Chavez, the late founder of the United Farm Workers Union, really focused on American Mexicans who were working in the fields, trying to unionize them. He opposed illegal immigration. In fact, he called them wetbacks. In fact, he organized American citizens of Mexican ancestry to help watch the border. And when they could catch illegal aliens, they would. And when they could make reports about what was happening on parts of the border, they were reported to the old Immigration and Naturalization Service. The Democrat Party was against illegal immigration, but it decided it can't build a big enough coalition without it. It can't win future elections without it. So it flipped, as did their unions. Their unions used to oppose illegal immigration. Not anymore. They see future members. They don't care about their current members. They see future members. So here's Chuck Schumer. Here he was in the past opposing illegal immigration in a very articulate way, and Hillary Clinton opposing illegal immigration also in a very articulate way, and now they support it. All of it. I want you to think about that. What changed? Did you change? No. Did our principles change? No. Here's Chuck Schumer, 1996, cut 22, go.
This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public's angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done, people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration, you have no choice.
There you go. Wants to stop illegal immigration? Certainly. No free health care benefits, but look at him today. He's a grotesque coward. Self-serving, hack, $2 politician. We'll be right back. Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk. And you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/Levin. Make the switch, folks. Make it today. Jack Ciattarelli is the Republican nominee for governor of New Jersey. It's a very close race. He almost won it last time. He has a really good shot at it this time. How are you, sir?
Very well, Mark. Great to be back.
It's great to have you. Well, since you were gone, we've learned a lot about your opponent in terms of her failure to be allowed to graduate with the other members of her class, with the incredible amount of money she earned as a congresswoman, among other things. The more we learn about her, the more troubling, no?
Very much so. This is someone who's built their entire political brand around their time at the Naval Academy and in the military. We certainly salute the military service, as we do for my Army captain son. But while she was at the Naval Academy, she was punished. We know there was a cheating scandal in 1994. We know that she was involved. We know that she was punished by not being allowed to walk at the graduation ceremony, not having her name listed in the commencement exercise program. She says it's because she didn't turn in fellow classmates. 2 weeks later, she turned around and said it's because she knew there was a test that was circulating prior to the actual test being taken. All we're asking, Mark, is for her to approve the release of her disciplinary records so we could see exactly why it is that she was punished. I think the people of New Jersey deserve to know that.
And she won't release them, will she?
She won't release them. And what we're seeing, Mark, is a pattern. We now know that she was punished at the Naval Academy. We now know that when she was a congresswoman, she broke federal law on stock trades and stock reporting. The New York Times reports that she's been trading defense stocks while sitting on the House Armed Services Committee. And the entire campaign for governor has been based on a stack of lies on the campaign trail. So it starts to call into question, I think, her character.
Now, one of the things we discussed last time are these enormous monthly electricity bills that come into New Jersey, thanks really to the Democrats and Murphy and the way they have mishandled energy. They bought into this radical left agenda with windmills and all the rest of it that seems to kill an awful lot of whales off the Jersey shore there. She can't really be expected to fix that, can she?
Well, she's put forth an illegitimate plan that's not feasible. In fact, 77 incumbent Democratic legislators, not one of them has endorsed her plan, and the governor of her own party here in New Jersey slapped it down on TV saying, I don't think that's doable. It's not legal. It's not. She's proposing to declare a state of emergency on day one and freeze energy prices at their current rates. Why would we freeze your electric bill at an all-time high? I want to lower it, and we do that by pulling out a Reggie on day one. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is a carbon tax policy that costs New Jerseyans over $500 million a year. I pull out a Reggie. We save $500 million for homeowners, tenants, and businesses starting on day one.
So you want to cut electricity costs. You have a way of attacking that. And then people complain about the massive taxes in New Jersey. I mean, it's usually California, New York, and New Jersey when people talk about taxes. You have a plan for that, too? Do we not have him, Mr. Producer? Let's see if we can get him back. All right, he's calling back. Yep. We'll let you know when we have him. You know, the Russians don't like my show. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? All right. All right, Jack, I'm sorry we lost you. So do you have a plan with these massive taxes in New Jersey to confront that, too?
I appreciate you bringing that up, Mark. New Jerseyans face the highest overall tax burden in the country. We pay the highest property taxes, the highest business tax, the third highest income tax, and one of the highest sales taxes. We're not raising taxes under Governor Ciattarelli. We're going to lower the income tax and lower the business tax by reducing the size and cost of a bloated state government. It took us 238 years to get to a $36 billion state budget. In 8 years' time, the Democrats have raised the budget from $36 billion to $59 billion, a 70% increase in only 8 years. We're bloated. We're inefficient. It's wasteful. There's corruption. It all ends on day one in my administration.
Now, you actually have some bipartisan support, right? Some of the Democrat mayors have endorsed you, and no Republican mayor has endorsed her. Do I have that right?
You're exactly right. And when Democratic mayors are endorsing the Republican nominee, it says that people across the state have had it with all the failed policies of the past 8 years. But I'm honored to have those endorsements. We've got one out of the home county for my opponent, right in the heart of her legislative district. Another one in Bergen County, our most populated county. And then last week it was up in Branchville. So I'm honored to have those endorsements.
Well, my mother-in-law lives in Bergen County. My wife grew up in Bergen County. I'm glad to hear that. Let me ask you this. As a legislator, what the hell does she do?
Well, she hasn't for New Jersey, that's for sure. In fact, now she doesn't want to be part of the bipartisan group that's trying to get the government back open. And listen, New Jersey is a donor state. It has sent way more on an annual basis to Washington, D.C. than it gets back. And she's done nothing to correct that. But that goes along with, that's the case for the entire congressional delegation, which is dominated by 11 Democrats.
What do you have, 11-1 or something like that?
It's 11-3. Both U.S. senators are Democrats, and then of the 12 House seats, we've got only 3 of the 12 House seats are Republican. But we can change that next year when I win the governorship. I really do believe we can beat my opponent in her congressional race next year, and there's 1 or 2 other seats that'll be up for grabs, too.
Now, she reportedly made, by her own hand, she says, around $7 million, she and her husband, in a relatively short period of time. Explain to America what happened there. What do we know?
Well, we don't know what happened. There's a very famous interview that's now gone viral where she's asked, okay, you tripled your net worth since you got to Congress. How'd you do that? And her answer, after stumbling for a few seconds, was, I think we made money. Here's what we do know. She violated federal law. She had to pay fines for not reporting stock trades and stock transactions. And then, as we know, as the New York Times reports, was trading defense stocks while sitting on the House Armed Services Committee. Mark, even if that's not illegal, it doesn't pass the sniff test. People do not like it when public servants use their job to enrich themselves.
Now, the key to a race like this is getting out the vote. Do you have a good get-out-the-vote plan in place?
You bet we do. But I will tell you that compared to 21, there's a whole lot less indifference. Because of the closeness of my race in 21, one of the closest in history, didn't concede for 11 days because we were counting the votes. People now know that we can win, and people are highly motivated because of the closeness of that race, but also because the current governor's policies have failed us. His tax and spend policies have failed us. Housing, we're overdeveloping our suburbs, handcuffing our police. There's a significant rise in nonviolent crime. And, of course, we failed in public education as well, with New Jersey slipping from 2 to 12 on a national report card. I'll get us back to basics and teaching critical life skills. But all these failures across the board, and everyone knowing that my opponent is Murphy 2.0, just a continuation of those failed policies, has people highly motivated. And again, evidence of that are the Democratic mayors that have endorsed me.
Let me ask you this. It's a wonderful state. You know, it's the most dense state in the country, but you've got the real diversity of geography there. I mean, you've got a wonderful coastline. You got South Jersey, which is many parts agricultural. And then you have a number of cities in the state, and you're going to do everything you can, I suppose, to bring all these disparate parts together. It's not that easy.
Listen, I always say that we should celebrate and embrace New Jersey's diversity, not just the fact that we are, in fact, by ethnicity, race, and color, the most diverse state in the country, but its 4 regions are very different: North, Central, South, and Jersey Shore, 21 counties, 564 towns. But you know, we get up and down the state and just talk about how it is that we're going to fix everyday problems that just drive New Jersey nuts. Property taxes, again, the overdevelopment, public safety, public education, the electricity bills. These are all the things that people are furious about. It's why an overwhelming number of New Jerseyans feel the state's headed in the wrong direction. 2 out of 3 are looking to leave as soon as they can. I've got to reverse that. I do believe leadership matters. And when something I love is broken, I want to fix it. I believe my leadership can fix New Jersey.
Now, tell people who may not be familiar a little bit about your background.
Well, the Ciattarellis have been in New Jersey for 100 years. My grandparents came here from Valentano, Italy, in the Lazio region, because someone had preceded them to Raritan Borough in Somerset County, New Jersey, for reasons I don't know, but I'm glad my grandparents followed right behind. 3 generations of New Jerseyans have all achieved our American dream here. My grandfather worked his way up out of the ditch and was a successful independent contractor. My parents held 2 jobs, but were also very successful restaurant bar owners. I followed in their footsteps as an MBA CPA and 2-time successful business owner. But I've also had the privilege of serving at every level of government, municipal, county, and legislative level, terming myself each time and never even taking the salary or the benefits at most of the jobs, if anything. And it cost me money because it took time away from my business, but it was something I wanted to do in terms of giving back. But no candidate, Mark's ever come before the people of New Jersey who has a long family history here, MBA CPA, 2-time successful business owner who created jobs, and has served at every level of government. I know what's going on. I know exactly what we need to fix it. And if her debate performance of 2 weeks ago proved anything, she doesn't have a damn clue on how to fix New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. I also notice, and I'm sure the Democrat Party, New Jersey, and others are digging as hard as they can, you don't have any scandals following you around. You're not Linus with all the dirt following you around, are you?
Mark, I've led a pretty boring life, pretty typical for a CPA. But listen, again, it's one of the things that differentiates me from my opponent. We've been here for 100 years. She hasn't been here all that long and has spent more than half her time in Congress. And she did something else that I really detest. She ran for Congress in a district in which she did not live. And I know that's legal these days, but it still bothers me greatly. But another great difference between the two of us, I was allowed to walk at my college graduation. She wasn't. Yeah. I've never broken the law. She has.
Mm-hmm. All right, my friend. So if people want to help you, if they want to donate to you, they want to get involved in the campaign, particularly New Jersey, where do they go? What do they look at?
Appreciate that, Mark. It's jack4nj.com, Jack the number 4, jack4nj.com. That's also the handle on our social media. You can follow our travels, get involved in any which way you want, and we certainly welcome more participation from more voters.
That's Jack Ciattarelli. I think he's going to be the next governor in New Jersey. I hope so. We spent a lot of time, my family and I, in New Jersey. We wish you all the best, my friend. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark. Looking forward to next time.
All right, you take care. The guy's good. He's articulate. He knows what he wants to do. He's a successful businessman. He was successful in these other positions he held. Guy doesn't have a trace of scandal. He said what he wants to do. He wants to bring down those electricity prices by reversing what's taking place. He wants to bring down the tax levels. You know, he wants to do those things that matter in everyday lives. So he'd be a great governor in New Jersey. I think he'd be a great governor anywhere. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/Levin. Make the switch, folks. Make it today. John Berman is a part of a conga line of low IQ hosts over at the Constipated News Network, which is losing audience hand over foot, by the way, as is MSLSD. But yesterday he had Chucky Schmucky Schumer on the program. Listen to this. Cut one, go.
This is the type of thing you've said about shutdowns in the past. Let's listen.
What if I persuaded my caucus to say I'm going to shut the government down, I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way? It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation, of paralysis. Shutting down government over a policy difference is self-defeating. We can never hold American workers hostage again. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
That was you 3 times in the past. Go ahead. What's different this time?
Yeah, that was in March, John, before they had done these horrible things to health care, before they had introduced these rescissions, which would allow them to ignore the budget process.
Hold on. Did what horrible things to health care?
And
let's hold, please. Did what horrible things to health care? What's he talking about? They pushed illegal aliens off Medicaid. That's the horrible thing they did to health care. That's my point. The hill they want to die on is illegal aliens getting health care. Go ahead.
Line is when I was majority leader, we had 13 times to vote on a budget. Do you know why there was no shutdown? We sat and negotiated with the Republicans every time. They got some things, we got some things.
Okay, let's hold again. We're talking here about a continuing resolution, okay? What's a continuing resolution? It's supposed to be a nothing burger. It's supposed to be non-controversial. The battle isn't over the budget. The continuing resolution is what it says. It's to continue current spending levels for current federal programs at the same level, no change, for a period of weeks while the appropriation committees finish their work, and then you get the big enchilada at the end of the process, and then you can fight. This is supposed to be just, let's continue funding the government, or at least this little piece of the government, and then we'll duke it out later, but we need to finish our work. So they decided, really exceptional case here, to exploit this. They're the ones who decided to politicize this. This was, again, a ministerial act. That's all it was. Go ahead, please.
Negotiate at all. They refused, despite repeated entreaties by Hakeem and me, to go
but Hakeem
to the
and
White
me.
House.
Hakeem and me. These guys are saboteurs. You know what this really is, America? It's a fight in the Democrat Party. It's a fight by the Democrats, for the Democrats, with the Democrats. That's what it is. The Republicans are just doing things that you typically do with continuing resolutions. But the Democrats are fighting with each other. And so they've decided that this is the best way to unify themselves. They've made a terrible mistake because everybody knows this is a joke. This is pathetic. Make sure you watch Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday. It's going to be a killer show. I've got Ted Cruz. I've got Newt Gingrich. I brought in the big guns. And, of course, myself. I'm going to go through this like nobody else can or will in my opening statement, my monologue. That is Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can set your DVR if you think you're going to be watching football or going out to dinner or staring at the ceiling or whatever. So I always encourage people, set your DVR. I hope you're able to watch it live, but it's going to be a really, very important show. I'm going to talk to Newt about when he was speaker and the government was shut down twice, one time for 29 days with Clinton. And you'll see how different that was than what's going on right now. We're going to talk with Ted about the constitutional history of this stuff and what's going on in the Senate now. It's going to be, I think, just compelling and intriguing. Let's face it, it's the kind of show you're not going to see anywhere else. Not a conga line of guests, one or two guests, and they're there for a reason, not to fill time, and they're asked important questions. And I spend hours preparing my opening statement, what they call a monologue. I like opening statement. Opening statement to the rest of the program. You're going to learn things, and I think you're going to really be compelled by the program. So that's Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Please don't miss it on Fox, Life, Liberty, and Levin. The Power Hour is next. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-321-3211. We will take calls at the bottom of the hour. Our friends at the New York Post, Josh Christensen. Biden administration put Americans who flouted COVID mask mandate on no-fly list, which is reserved for terrorists. And, they keep calling the current administration, power-hungry, breaks the law, trying to go after people they disagree with. The Biden administration put Americans who defied COVID-19 mask mandates on no-fly lists, some of which are ordinarily used to flag suspected terrorists, according to preliminary findings from an internal Department of Homeland Security investigation obtained by the New York Post. DHS flagged 19 Americans to Transportation Security Administration watch lists between September 30, 2021 and October 25, 2021, more than half of whom received the most severe no-fly designation. They were prevented from boarding domestic flights. At least 11 of those Americans were kept on the watch list until April 2022 when a federal court ruling forced the Biden administration to end its mask mandate. Remember what the bottom line was with these masks? They did nothing. They did nothing. The 6-foot rule, they don't even know where that came from. That did nothing. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said the Biden's TSA widely abused their authority when sharing the findings from the internal investigation, first reported by Fox, into what the prior administration had dubbed Operation Freedom to Breathe. Biden's TSA administrator, David Pukeski, and his cronies abused their authority and weaponized the federal government against the very people they were charged with protecting, Noem said. President Trump promised to end the weaponization of government against the American people, and we're making good on that promise. Noem fired 5 senior officials associated with the operation and referred relevant information to the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, as well as to members of Congress for further investigation. Rand Paul, who chairs the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, put out a brief report Monday stating at least 24 Americans were put on the list. due merely to their association with a protest group called Freedom to Breathe Agency, which protested mask mandates. This guy, Rand Paul's a real reprobate. He's a chip off the old man's block. Ron Paul. He votes a lot with the Democrats, not because he's one of them, because he's one of him. And so he voted against the continuing resolution. He votes for these things almost sort of a Don Quixote move. He may object to something, but he obviously does not have the ability or the whatever it is to get many people to go with him who are conservative. He just doesn't. Now, this DHS probe also found about 280 Americans who were placed on watch lists. You believe this? After being involved in protests that culminated in January 6th. See, 5 of those U.S. adults got the no-fly designation over the objections of TSA's chief privacy officer. Over the objections. Putting Americans on the list is clearly unrelated to transportation security, the officer said in a January 13, 2021 email. TSA is punishing people for the expression of their ideas. Ooh, I thought they believed in free speech, only for Islamists and Marxists and violent rioters, I guess. The day after the Capitol riot, a second TSA intelligence employee expressed alarm at adding some other people to watch lists for just being curfew breakers after the Capitol riot. I'll tell you what, this Biden regime, you talk about fascism, authoritarianism, all the rest of it, they were having a blast, man. A blast. They violated federal law. They violated federal law when it came to excusing student loans. They violated federal law when it came to vaccine requirements, coming up with a cockamamie argument related to OSHA. I mean, sick. And, of course, putting boys in girls' bathrooms and locker rooms and all that. They were big on that one. I think Biden himself was very, may I say, motivated to do that. He just got weird about stuff, you know. The Bureau also botched investigations, putting both National Guardsmen and a wife of a federal air marshal on a no-fly list due to bad intelligence. I believe they put Tulsi Gabbard on a no-fly list. Other emails showed Biden's TSA over-relied on a George Washington University program rather than the FBI in determining whom to flag. It's a mess. What they were doing with the border, with TSA. They didn't fix FAA. They didn't give a damn. Now Buttigieg wants to be president, having failed, incredibly failed, as the Secretary of Transportation. Now he wants to be president, like Newsom. Destroyed California, now he wants to be president. Like that fat slob Pritzker over there in Illinois. I know it's Illinois. That moron, he wants to be president. Boy, oh boy, talk about the Star Wars bar scene. They were more attractive than this crowd. Can you imagine this crowd in a line, Mr. Producer? Ooh. Who else wants to be president? What are the other reprobates want to be president? I don't know. By the way, I want to point something out. You know, I had this meeting with President Trump, as well as others. I'm not going to get into the specifics for lunch. I think it was early June. Immediately after that, there was a leak to Qatar, who then put a social media post up there. I won't dig into that right now either. But I always wondered who was responsible for the leak. The vice president said he was not, and his office was not. But I got to thinking, who would be responsible for the leak? We now know who it was. I'm not going to put the person's name out until the person is eventually removed. It was not in the vice president's office. So when they finally do something about this person, who is a rabid leaker about all things Jews and all things Israel, among other things, I'll let you know. But I definitely wanted to clear Vance and his office. They were not the ones. There's been incredibly horrific leaks to Axios, some to Mediaite, again involving Qatar. Hey, I have a question for you, America. Mr. and Mrs. America. Have you heard any of these isolationists, these phony influencers, these Holocaust deniers, people like Qatar? Have you heard them condemn the executive order, which purportedly compels us to go to war on behalf of Qatar if Qatar's invaded? I have not. Have you, Mr. Producer? I've not heard them say a damn thing. Now, I don't listen to them, but I haven't seen any of the clicks. Did they say that Qatar's going to drag us into World War III, Mr. Producer? I don't think they did. No. Did they call Qatar protectorate? Because it is now. It is. So the Hamas leaders in Qatar now have immunity. They're protected. They're protected. So it is interesting to me that none of these isolationist Neanderthals, these throwbacks, this hate America first fake MAGA crowd, it's interesting to me they haven't said one syllable about this. They're not concerned in the least. Now, what does that tell you? What does that tell you, Mr. and Mrs. America? They side with the Islamists. But even worse, they're inconsistent because they're obsessed and driven by their hate for Netanyahu, Israel, Jews, and quite frankly, they're self-hating Americans. Self-hating Americans. That's what they are. They haven't said a damn thing. Not a word. Not a word. Do you want your children to die in Qatar, ladies and gentlemen? Do you? How about your grandchildren? I don't. For what? Not a word. They don't talk about Qatar's terrorist support, terrorist funding, 9/11, October 7. Not a word from the influencers. The influencers? Nothing. Nothing. It's amazing, isn't it? I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, a great Life, Liberty, and Levin, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Some of you might be watching something else, baseball, football, tiddlywinks, I don't know. But definitely set your DVR permanently for 8 p.m. Eastern, Fox, Life, Liberty, and Levin, Saturday, same with Sunday. That way you'll have it. I think you're going to really, really, really appreciate this one. And I have the A-team there, Senator Ted Cruz and former Speaker Newt Gingrich. I'm going to jump into this phony government shutdown issue. I'm going to take it apart and then glue it back together. We're going to have Mr. Senate Conservative, that would be Ted Cruz, who's been involved in a number of so-called government shutdowns and filibusters related to them. One of the great speakers of all time, and that would be Newt Gingrich, who's going to discuss when the government was shut down, quote unquote, when they were confronting Clinton to drive down his spending and his deficits and to force him to balance the budget. Really the first time in God knows how long, and certainly the last time in God knows how long, and how that is to be distinguished majorly from what the Democrats are doing. And it's going to take numbers and an analysis of the process and make it very fascinating and intriguing. So please don't miss it. That's Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. While it's front of mind, go ahead and set your DVR so you don't miss it, even if you can't watch it live. And, of course, if you can watch it live, I think that's great, too. You know, the most recent numbers are out. CNN and MSNBC are hemorrhaging viewers. They're hemorrhaging viewers. There's really 5 networks that are doing very, very well. And, of course, Fox News Channel is not only one of the 5, it's the top. And there's a reason for this. The American people hate the rest of the media. The American people don't trust the rest of the media, nor should they. It's a disaster for the rest of the media because they created this themselves. That's the truth. Here we have a Gallup poll. Let's see here. Republicans' confidence in mass media to report news fully, accurately, and fairly. You know what it is? It's at 8%. 8% among Republicans. Americans' confidence in the mass media has edged down to a new low. 28% expressing a great deal or fair amount of trust in newspapers, television, and radio to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly. This is down from 31% last year and 40% 5 years ago. Meanwhile, 7 in 10 U.S. adults now say they have not very much confidence, 36%, or none at all, 34%. The media, you did this to yourselves. Most of you should be fired, and they should start over again. I'm serious about this. Most of these people should be fired, and they should start over again. When Gallup began measuring trust in the news media in the 70s, between 68 and 72% of Americans expressed confidence in reporting. But by the next reading in 1997, it had fallen to 53%, just above 50%, until it dropped to 44% in 2004. Now it's so far in the toilet, it's clogging up the sewer system, to be perfectly honest with you. 28% confidence right now. That's nothing. First time it's ever fallen below 30%. Now, I said Republicans, 8%. Republican confidence hasn't risen above 21% since 2015 and dropped to 8% for the first time in the trend. Independents' trust has not reached the majority level since 2003, and the latest 27% matches last year's historic low. Only the the Democrats, the narrowest of majorities, 51% now express trust in the media. You know, that ought to be 91%. They own the media. The Democrats populate the media. Clear generational divide in trust in the media. According to this analysis, 3-year aggregated data, 3 years of samples. Most recent 3-year period spanning 2023 to 2025, 43% of adults aged 65 and older trust the media, compared with no more than 28% in any younger age group. Now, in the early 2000s, Americans in all 4 age groups expressed relatively similar levels of confidence in the media. The reason is the media went absolutely nuts during the Donald Trump era. And they have lied, they have deceived, they've created pseudo-events, they have censored and covered up. In other words, they've acted like Democrats, because they are Democrats. There's a really great book on this called Unfreedom of the Press. Have you ever looked at that, Mr. Producer? Unfreedom of the Press. It's my book. Yeah, it lays it all out. Chapter and verse, be perfectly honest with you. The bottom line, writes Gallup, confidence in the mass media is historically low, with fewer than 3 in 10 Americans now placing trust in newspapers. So what are they going to do about it? What is MSLSD going to do about it? What is the constipated newswork going to do about it? What are NBC and ABC going to do about it? You know, CBS is under new management now, under new ownership. I think they're going to try at least bring it to the middle so there's some level of objectivity. So they're not spewing Hamas data. So they're not spewing Marxist propaganda. So they're not rooting openly and clearly for the Democrat Party. So they're not spending their time pushing lies and conspiracy theories about Trump. You know, hope is eternal, so I don't know. We'll see. We can hope that CBS does turn around now that Paramount was bought by a rational group of people. You know, even on Fox, we have our liberals. We have conservatives who don't agree. We do. But we have one thing in common. We're patriots. We love the country. We're not platforming Islamists. We're not platforming Marxists. We're not platforming people who want to destroy our society and destroy our culture and our country. We challenge them. So we have people that have some disagreements, even within the conservative tent. But we have one thing in common, and that is love of country. I don't think most of these media outlets do. Does CNN love the country? How so? How does it show that? MSNBC hates the country. It shows that all the time. And by the way, it's not just broadcast media. Look at the New York Slimes. It's never loved America. It's lied about the Holocaust. It's lied about Stalin's slaughter of the Ukrainians, 1932. It's lied about Hamas and its war on Israel with fake, phony pictures that it's used. It's a horrendous media corporation filled with liars and lying. Washington Compost, looks like there's been some adjustment there, but not enough and not fast enough. So we'll see what happens there. But you look at the rest of the old corporate media platforms. They don't change. They're just dying on the vine. They will fight to the end to be stupid, to be left-wing, to censor, and to advocate. That's what's happening. And they don't care. And you do. Which is why people aren't watching, CNN. They're not watching MSNBC. We'll be right back. Reminder, 2 Jewish parishioners were killed and 3 others seriously injured outside of Manchester, England's synagogue, Orthodox synagogue, on Yom Kippur. A 35-year-old terrorist by the name of Jihad al-Shami. What kind of a parent names their kid Jihad? Obviously an Islamist nutjob. Jihad al-Shami, a British citizen of Syrian descent, rammed his car into the congregants before stabbing. Police shot him dead as he tried to storm the Heaton Park Hebrew congregation. The synagogue was initially suspected of wearing explosives, later ruled out. 3 others were arrested on terrorism charges. 3 others were arrested. So he wasn't alone. He wasn't alone. I predict now, and this upsets me, that you'll see more and more of this in the United States of America. Global intifada, isn't that what Mamdani called it? Praised it, supported it. Now he's gone back to his teachings. Don't show ankle. Don't show ankle. Act like a Westerner. Act like a Marxist. No. Blend in. Back off. Say whatever you need to say. Do whatever you need to do. But get in there. And so Mamdani's going to destroy New York. That's his goal. Destroy New York. He's going to destroy the infrastructure. He's going to destroy the business and economic community. He's going to destroy public transportation. He's going to destroy the food supply process. He's going to destroy law and order. Really tremendous police force there. He's going to destroy it. That's what he's going to do. He is a one-man wrecking ball. That's the plan. You've heard it here first. The goal is to destroy the city. That's his mission. Not because he's an intellectual, midget. Not because he's an ideological lowlife. He's all those things. But he's literally on the offense. He's on a mission to take down the biggest city in America. I'm so sick of Republicans saying, yeah, and then that'll send a message. Don't elect Democrats. We're not sending messages. We want to stop these people. He's on a kamikaze mission to mix my generations. Kamikaze. He's a jihadist. That's what he is. It's what he is. The father, the mother, the whole crowd. Why do you think our new wonderful friends who we're prepared to fight and die for, the inbreds that run Qatar, have subsidized this jerk's mother to put out her crap documentaries, her Jew-hating documentaries? I'm sure you want your kids and grandkids to fight for that crap too, right? So here we have it. Jihad al-Shami. I knew it was an Islamist because the British were covering up this guy's name as long as they could. I knew it wasn't Frank Smith, Al Robinson, Ernie Goldberg. Jihad al-Shami. The name fits the action. Sick. Absolutely sick. Greg in Vernon, New Jersey. How are you, Greg? Go right ahead, please.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
There are so many wrong things with the United States right now. And most of it can be traced back to Obama. These Muslims are a problem.
All right, listen to me. You can't talk like that on a public radio. These Muslims are a problem. You can say the Islamists are a problem, the jihadis are a problem, something like that. Okay? Because you need to focus in on who the problem is. Yes? Okay. Don't make smart-ass comments on here that are intended to destroy this network. That's not going to happen. Okay? You're calling the wrong show. This isn't your dinner table where you can act like a moron. Don't call back. You're banned for life. Of course, I don't know how to ban them for life, but we'll do our best. You give our cause a black eye. You really do, making stupid-ass comments. Let's go to Joel in Naples, Florida, the great WFSX. Go, please. Yes, Joel, go right ahead, please. It's not turning out very well. Last time, Joe, 3, 2, 1, you're out. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Martin in Washington, Missouri. KRTK. Martin, how are you?
Pretty good. I'm a patriot just like you. I think we've lived through the best times this country's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with the shutdown. The government is all Democratic ploy. They want to convert the country to a communist nation.
Here's the problem. Here's the truth.
Go ahead.
83% of the government is never shut down. You're talking about 17%. That's the truth. That's the dirty little secret. This damn thing rolls on and on and on and on. You're talking about 17%. I'm going to explain it on Saturday night on Life, Liberty, and Levin, too. They have what's called mandatory spending and discretionary spending. So here's what goes on, Martin. Congress has created spending that doesn't require annual votes, you know, for entitlements and things like that. So it's called mandatory spending. And then they have discretionary spending for other stuff. And so these battles are always over about 25, 27% of the budget, not the vast majority of the budget. And half of that discretionary spending is the military. So you're really talking about 13, 14%. And what the Democrats want to do is massively increase that by $1.5 trillion and give hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for health care. They want to take your money, Martin, and give it to illegal aliens, some of whom are marching in the street about overthrowing your government and burning the American flag. Not all, but too damn many. That's what they want to do. What do you think of that one?
It's wrong. It should not be allowed. But this is America. You can protest if you want to, but it's not right.
No, but that doesn't mean we have to pay for their health care, for God's sake.
No, we don't. We shouldn't pay for the health care. We shouldn't pay for any of that crap.
No, 100%. All right, Martin, good call. Thank you, my friend. Trucker Gary, our friend, Cascade, Wisconsin, XM Satellite Radio. Gary, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good, Mark. Man, I just want to thank you for everything that you do. I mean, first of all, I received your new book on power, and that is awesome. I listen to you every day. I listen to you in the truck on XM Satellite.
You're great.
And I was a little disappointed. I was a little disappointed last night when you. Not that your fill-ins aren't good or anything, but when I don't hear your voice, I get bummed.
Well, you're very kind. You know, it's Yom Kippur. It's the Day of Atonement. And
yeah,
I don't see a whole lot of holidays and so forth coming up in the near future. So my voice will be ubiquitous.
All right. I love it. Yeah, I love everything that you do. It's unbelievable. And tonight when you touched on that deal about when that so-and-so buffoon come up with that mask mandate thing, it was like, I lived through that period. I drove the truck every day, and the only time that I would put a mask on was when I had to get a load, because if I didn't put a mask on, I wasn't going to get that load. And that was the biggest bunch of garbage that ever happened. I mean, how unhealthy, and it was a joke. It was an absolute joke. I just couldn't believe it.
And meanwhile, look how they behave when it comes to ICE. They're wearing masks for their safety and their family's safety. And look how the Democrats want to remove them. Isn't that sick? Sick.
It is sick. It is sick. The other day, I seen some young lady walking in the store or truck stop where I was at. She had a mask on. I'm like, what are you doing? You know,
yes.
And I was an essential worker. I worked through that whole thing. There wasn't a day that was missed that my wheels weren't spinning. And I said, what in the world is this world coming to? And every day what you report to the American people, the patriots, what you report is so strong. And I can't believe these buffoons and these idiots and this killing and all this stuff that's going on. It just makes me sad.
Well, thank you, my friend. You're a good man, and God bless you. You take care of yourself. Be safe on the road. It's a headline right now in the New York Post. Hamas military chief rejects Trump ceasefire plan, aims to keep fighting. Report. Ronnie Reyes, Hamas's top military leader in Gaza, wants the terror group to reject President Trump's ceasefire proposal, urging negotiators to walk away from the deal, according to a new report. Yabba Dabba Doo and Hitler, too, who helped plan the October 7 terrorist attack, slammed Trump's 20-point peace deal as a way to eliminate Hamas without achieving any of its goals, the BBC reported. The terror chief, who holds the fate of the 48 hostages in his hands, called on the negotiators in Qatar to reject the deal, reportedly telling the team that he plans to continue the war with Israel. See, this is what Netanyahu, the IDF, the Israelis have to deal with. Even if Hamas now says, we're in, you got this guy, they're not going to stop. This is the naivete of so much of this, quite frankly. They're not going to stop. Now, there's an enormous amount of responsibility on Arab countries and Muslim countries, some of which overlap, some of which don't, to demilitarize Gaza, to force the surrender of Hamas, and to do a whole bunch of other things in exchange for Israel withdrawing, giving Hamas what's left of it, clear passage if they give up their weapons, and so forth and so on. And they want their hostages out, and they want them out now. But here you have these guys who are defiant. I don't really think this Hamas speaks with one voice. I really don't. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So Hamas's military chief says no to the Trump deal. So what happens now? We search around for somebody who might say yes? Which does raise a question. Who's in charge of Hamas now? Now, we better not be shopping around looking for one of them to say yes when most of them mean no. And this is part of the problem. The Gatestone Institute piece kind of touched on this, talking about Qatar. Qatar has many ways to promote terrorism through different groups or the creation of different groups. But so does Hamas. Hamas is basically one of the military wings of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the mothership of Islamist terrorism that seeks to destroy the West. Qatar has given safe haven to the Muslim Brotherhood. Qatar has been hated by even Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, because they know what Qatar is. And now they're a protectorate. Is that not bizarre, Mr. Producer? Qatar is a protectorate? Whew. I'll never get that one. I'll just never get that one. Excuse me. Cholera. Let's slip in a call here if we can. Michael, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead, please.
Thank you for taking my call, sir.
Yes, sir.
I was just curious about something simple. In the same way that Trump can make recess appointments, with the government closed down, is that something he can do now, or that he has more authority to do?
This is actually a great question. The issue isn't, quote unquote, if the government's shut down. The issue is if Congress is in session. So it's a different triggering mechanism. So it doesn't really change that, but that's a very thoughtful question, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers like Gary. We support the people of Ukraine. We support the people of Israel. And you, the American people, red-blooded Americans, what would we, the world, do without you? God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, set your DVR, 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, Fox. See you tomorrow.